Hey, it's Brock here from Rock Hill Farms, and if you notice that I'm grinning from ear to ear, it's because I just pulled a brand new tractor attachment off of a semi-truck down at the end of the driveway and set it here in the shed. But I'm actually not allowed to show it to you today, but we'll be showing that pretty soon. Today what we're going to do is cut up some unusual trees down in my dry pond and start the process of building up for my next stump burn. My last stump burn was really popular here on the YouTube channel, and I thought it might have been successful, except it rained and rained the next 2 days after, and we didn't get to see the long-term result. But I took all the comments that I got about that stump, and we're going to redo it bigger and better with all of your suggestions. But right now, I just got done sharpening my chain. I got to get my safety gear and head down to the pond and start doing some cutting. So we are going to start right here with this tree. I talked yesterday that I want to be able to mow this. We've got this mud hole here. I'd actually like to fill that in a little bit, make it where I can maintain this property. And right here, we have a twisted, gnarly hedge tree that leans all the way out, and those branches, good sized branches, are coming within a foot or two of the ground. But I could just trim the end of it off, but I think I'm going to cut this entire trunk right here. Around here we mostly call this a hedge tree, but I think most people call it Osage orange or bow dark. It's kind of a crazy wood, like red orange, super bright, almost sometimes closer to orange than red, but really unique coloring. But that's not the most distinctive thing. The most distinctive thing is this wood is as hard as iron, and it burns hotter than anything else I've ever been around. If you put hedge onto an open fire, it will shoot and pop sparks out at you like fireworks. So it's a really unique species, and I wish I could mill it, because I've milled a little bit of hedge and it's fantastic, but nothing on this tree or the other ones like it down the way is straight enough. Now, cutting this might seem straightforward, but I talked about this 2 videos ago. We've got a lot of weight hanging out here. Now, if this was just one branch and it just went up a few feet, you would just start at the top and cut it off and it would fall, and that's it. But as it is, if I started cutting this from the top, I'd get about halfway and this would split and the end of it would come down, and this might kick sideways, or who knows what it might do. So I'm gonna have to make a face cut like I was cutting down a tree here, and then I'm gonna have to cut it basically like cutting down a tree and probably do a bore cut on it. There's going to be people who say I'm being dramatic and you just walk up and cut it. I do not believe that to be the case at all. Maybe you're a professional and you've done a bunch of stuff and you can just walk up and do it. But to me, this is more dangerous than a much larger tree that's standing straight up and down. If you don't like or don't understand the cutting technique that I'm using here, that's perfectly fine and you're welcome to tell me about it. But I would also recommend that you go watch my tree felling video from a couple days ago, and I will provide a link at the end of this video and in the description so you at least know why I'm doing it the way I am. So believe it or not, that went 90% according to plan, but I still could have been seriously hurt by it. So this little skinny branch here that was hanging way off to that side, as the tree fell, that came down and hit me and caused me to stumble over this, and I fell down. Now that's nothing like having the trunk come at you or anything like that. Like if it barber chaired and split up in the air, it can spring towards you with all the weight. But what could have been dangerous there is that little branch hit me. I'm wearing a helmet and it hit me in the head and in the back, but I was carrying a running chainsaw. But I actually have a habit that I think everyone should take up. I don't know if I've ever talked about it. As I was walking back, I already had the chain brake on. When cutting this up, I have to determine which side of this log is the tension and which side is the compression. This is just hanging up in the air, so it's got to have some weight bearing on the other end or it wouldn't be hanging up. If there's weight hanging on the other end, that means compression's on the top. You cut halfway from the top and then come up from the bottom. If you're not familiar with what that means, I've got a full video on it that I can share in a minute at the end of the video, but every tree, every log that's hanging there has compression and tension. To cut a log, you always cut halfway through the compression, and then you cut the rest of the way through the tension. And if you think about it, that's even what you do on a tree that's standing mostly straight up and down, but has like a little bit more limb weight over here. You know what's gonna go that way? Where you make your face cut, that's the compression wood. It's the same every time you cut a piece of wood. You cut compression and then you cut tension. So I believe compression will be on the top. The way you find out is if you start making that cut from the top and you see it just slightly open up off of your bar, then you know you've misjudged that and you should be cutting from the other direction. So in my video the other day talking about the hidden dangers of tree felling, I described this type of cut that I just did and why I find that one to be dangerous. But I also talked about two other kinds of cuts, and the cut number 3 is the one that you have to be smart enough to know you're not capable of making. So this right here, this other section of this tree leans off really hard that way, but then there's a big section that curls back this way. So if I was going to cut that, I'd want to find a way to get up in the air and take this off. But to cut this, if I cut this, it's twisted up in large branches of this other hedge tree. The other hedge tree, they're twisted together, and not small branches, large pieces of it twisted together. And so cutting either of them means it's going to hang on the other one. And that one is right on the fence line, and it's grown into another tree. Now, if my life depended on it, could I cut those down and get them on the ground? Yeah, I could. I could do it, but I think the danger and the complication on this tree is too much for me, so I'm not going to touch it. But I am going to make another cut here as I look at it right now. So by cutting this off, I've got this hole in this tree right here. Now every time it rains, it's going to rain down in that tree, and it's going to fill the base of this, and it's going to hollow it out, and it's going to rot it faster. And the result is going to be that leaving this pocket here is going to cause this to rot and fall faster. So I'm going to retrim this to try to leave a better finished product that might be better for the tree. Well, I didn't accomplish what I wanted to. I was hopeful that this didn't go too far, and if the shape of it was right, the pocket here, you can kind of make a V under it to where the water will drain out, but I just don't know if there's anything I can do about that. I'm gonna go ahead and try real quick. My first inclination would be to pack this with foam, spray some expanding foam in there, and then that would keep it from raining into the tree. But I've watched videos on it, and what the information I can find from actual professional tree surgeons is that filling that with foam or anything else actually makes the problem worse. It needs to dry out, and that can only happen by leaving it exposed to the air. I tried to make it where that water that ran down in that would run out, but that goes all the way to the base. This tree is going to fall on its own. There's nothing I can do about it. I would love to cut it down and just get it on the ground, but I can't. I don't have the skill set necessary, and sometimes you just have to admit that. But this tree's 100 miles from anything, and when it falls, it'll fall, and I'll come clean up the mess. Till then, I appreciate you taking time to watch this video. I'll put links on the screen to a couple more of our videos, and I'll see you next time.